I was very driven and very motivated from a young age. Started running my own businesses at the age of 19 and have been self-employed since then. You have to love what you're doing. You have to be good at it. And the last one is profitable. Can this business make money? We opened up a restaurant one time on Granville Street. It was one of the biggest mistakes we ever made. Actions speak louder than words. If you want to be a leader, you have to act like a leader. And it's so important that you surround yourself with good people. Life is so short. Don't waste your time doing something that you don't really love.
Welcome on the Canadian Dream Podcast, and welcome back if you have watched any of our episodes before. Today, I have one of my favorite people in Vancouver on this podcast for the second time. I met this person here, William Donnellan, about 2 years ago when he came on our episode 10. Go back and watch that episode if you can before watching this. And I was so admired by not how much he has grown, but how fast he has grown in his personal and in his business life. In this episode, we're going to talk about what it takes to build an empire and whether it's something that is for everybody, but also what the sacrifices are for those who choose that journey to grow exponentially and to do it fast. Because we know nothing comes easy when we're talking about great things in life. They are usually the most difficult things to achieve. But this person here has done everything that it takes to be where he's at now. So I'm so proud of having you here today. Welcome, William Donnellan, to the second episode on the Canadian Dream Podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here.
Franco, who is here behind the scenes, and myself, we spent an entire day with you filming the day in the life of William Donnellan. We were exhausted spending the whole day with you, exhausted. There are so many things that I want to talk about, but for anybody who has not watched the first episode, people who have never heard of William Donnellan, what have you accomplished here in Canada?
I was trying to think there when you said episode 10 2 years ago, and I was thinking, how many companies had we then? I'd say about 8. But we have 15 companies now. We specialize in the construction industry and the hospitality industry. So we have a company that does a lot of contracting and construction management called IRL Construction Ltd. We have a company that does some property development locally here called Vanway Properties. And then we have our hospitality, IRL Hospitality, which specializes and focuses in Irish pubs and has recently branched out and opened a cocktail and whiskey bar. So we're going away from what we normally do, I suppose, and venturing into a new space.
You're forgetting something else, which we have right here.
Yes, yeah, Geo Cider,
Yeah.
which we got involved in earlier this year, has been a very fun project too. Great product. If you haven't tried it yet, anyone who hasn't tried it, really good local craft cider, low sugar, low calories, local family-run business in Squamish, BC. Great people, great product, and I think lots of potential there.
Every time, we meet, there's always something new already. So Geo Cider, I was going to say, there are these many flavors. Was it 6 flavors?
More than that.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Every time I say, you had 10 pubs. Oh, it's actually 12. Oh, you had 6 flavors. No, more than that. So how many flavors?
Twice as many. But our plan is to narrow that down and, have 3 different flavors.
Okay, which are?
An apple, a pear, and an orange. The apple cider, the old world original apple, is a very traditional cider. And that one, I think we can make it a little bit better. I really do. It's probably an 8 out of 10 right now, maybe 9, but I think we can tweak that one and turn it into something a bit more special. But I'm very, very happy with the product.
One of the things I want to talk about is this, I was going to say, multitasking skill that you have to work on so many different things at the same time. My wife disagrees. She says it's not multitasking. I think it's versatility. And she says, no, it's not versatility. So maybe it is your capacity to focus on different things but go all in, and whatever you touch just grows. But before we get there, can you give us a short recap on your journey coming to Canada, and how was this journey to where you are at today?
Laura is my wife. She was my girlfriend at the time in 2009. We're both from the same area in the west of Ireland, a small little village called Crockwell. Outside, a lot of people will know the Fields of Athenry. There's a famous song about the Fields of Athenry. So in Galway, we grew up in a little village with about 2,000 people. So everybody knew everybody. We had a little convenience store. Our families would go back for generations. So we knew each other forever. We've been together as a couple for 22 years. We came here in 2009 to Vancouver. Our plan was to do a bit of traveling around Canada. We thought we'd come here for a month and then go on to Toronto. We had lots of connections in Toronto. We didn't know anybody in Vancouver, didn't have a phone number, didn't know one person. Got to Vancouver, stayed here for the month, fell in love with the place, fell in love with the people, and never left. And now we have 3 little Canadians ourselves, and I don't think we'll ever leave Vancouver.
When it came to Canada, you already had experience owning a construction business and owning a pub.
Yes, I did. And I am a born entrepreneur for sure. You know, I like to work for myself. For me to be told, okay, you start at this time and you finish at this time, you know, you can work for 8 hours and that's it. You know, it doesn't work for me. I like to work most of the time. As I said, it doesn't seem like work to me. I just love what I do. I never really get overwhelmed by it. Being the middle child, you know, most definitely had middle child syndrome. I was very driven and very motivated from a young age. Played a lot of sports, always wanted to win. I see that in our boys now and I love it. Didn't take losing well. Wanted to be the captain. And as I said, started running my own businesses at the age of 19 and have been self-employed since then.
And what was your first business in Ireland?
I'm a carpenter by trade. So I started doing construction, William Donnellan Carpentry, and took on a pub as well, a 5-year lease on a pub from the age of 19 to 24, and then came to Canada when that lease was up for a few months. And that's 17 years ago and never left.
So how did you start your first business in Vancouver?
I started IRL construction in 2011, and it was just myself at the time. Went from myself to probably 3 people, to probably 5 people, then to about 50 people pretty quickly in year 1. And then by year 3, I would say we had about 150 full-time people. So huge growth, because there was a massive demand there for the service we were providing. We were doing a lot of skilled labour hire. I noticed that there wasn't any really good skilled labour hire company in the city who would not just provide really good construction workers, but would also supply the tools and the vehicles to come along with those workers. And, you know, I noticed when we would use skilled labour companies, there was always a lot of issues. You know, they would be late, they wouldn't have any tools, they missed the bus, they missed the SkyTrain. It was a lot of excuses. So I was thinking, how can I eliminate all of those if I supply the tools, if I supply the vehicles and have really good people, and I make sure that company policy is if you start at 7 a.m., you're there on site at 6:45 a.m. You know, and just by implementing small little policies like that, it had a huge effect, and it was a massive success. We took on a project, one stands out in particular, in Dawson City. And probably a couple of years after starting IRL construction, and supposed to go up there to do a job for Corix Utilities for 3 months.
Dawson is in Yukon.
That's right, up in the Yukon.
That's far, like 2,000 kilometers?
I drove up there with Laura's brother at the time and brought up all of our tools, a big trailer. It took us 36 hours to get up there driving. And it was just a fascinating experience. It was something I'll never forget. Ended up being up there for almost a year. They extended my contract, and that, I think, gave us the money that we made up there and the sacrifices that we made, gave us a really, really good foundation for IRA. And that, I think that was where everything really kicked off.
And why are construction and hospitality connected in your world?
So in 2016, we opened our first pub here in Vancouver, Donnellan's on Granville Street. And that place is pretty iconic now. It's a brilliant place. We're very proud of it, and it has survived some very tough times through the pandemic, and is still going strong. I remember going to look at that location back in 2016 with a realtor, and I was afraid to tell Laura that I was going to look at a location because, we had a pub in Ireland, and I guess I had a pub in Ireland, for 5 years, and we were dating at the time, and Laura was like, and she worked in it quite often too, and she was saying, we're not doing that again,
Why not?
because it's hard work. And we were working, imagine Laura's working during the day, I'm working during the day, and our regular jobs. So I'm on a construction site all day. Laura worked in HR for a big company called Dunn Stores, and be like a Save on Foods, and then come home in the evening and have to open up your pub and work there, till midnight or maybe 1 a.m. if it was busy, and then get up the next morning and go and work on site and in the office. So it was a lot of work. And she said, we're not doing that again. And I said, okay. So I looked at this location without her knowing. And then I said, there's a lot of potential here. This location was Joseph Richards at the time. It used to be Stone Temple before that. A lot of people will know it as Stone Temple. It was quite iconic.
I went to both.
Did you? Yeah. And me too. And I said, Laura, I looked at this location. It's got a lot of potential. Will you please go and look at it? And if you, say, no interest, it's got no potential, I don't like it, we're not doing it, we won't do it. So I remember being out on site, put it onto a concrete pump, pouring concrete, and the phone rang, and Laura was after meeting with the realtor, a couple of days later, and she rang and she said, I thought it was going to be like, just drop it, leave it. But she said, that place has a lot of potential, and I like it. It's a good location. It's a great place. I think it would be a really good Irish pub. So we kicked on from there, and we spent about 18 months renovating that space.
IRL.
With,
That's how
yeah,
places are defined.
So a huge advantage that we signed a lease, and right away we were able to get access and start work on that new Irish pub. But the permitting process was tough. The licensing process was pretty tough, and it dragged on for a lot longer than we expected. And imagine we're paying about $23,000 a month rent at this time. This is back in 2016, and we probably spent about $500,000 on rent before we opened our doors. So it was very, very tough, but thank God when we opened the doors, the place really took off. The community really embraced it, and it was a huge success.
So how do you combine construction with hospitality now? Because after that you opened so many bars.
10 locations in about 8 years. I think our big advantage is that we can move quicker. We can save money. If you were to bring a contractor in here to do the work, you're going to pay a premium on that. They're going to mark up that. We can, because we have a good relationship with suppliers and trades, we can get a better price. We can self-perform a lot of the work, and we can save a lot of money. So that was definitely a huge advantage for us, being able to build out our own bars and save time and save money while we were doing that.
Yeah. And now you even have a franchise business.
We do.
Came from that.
Yes. What we do is empowering people. Laura and myself really believe that our purpose here on this planet and in Vancouver is to help people and empower the people around us. And we were wondering how we could do that. We have so many great people on our team. They're honest, they're reliable, they're loyal. They've been with us, some of them, for a long, long time, and almost the beginning. And we were thinking, how could we, empower these people? And a lot of them and I'm talking about our general managers, our bar managers, our staff in the hospitality. Their dream is to own their own pub someday. But we know how expensive it is to do that here in BC, in Vancouver. It's millions of dollars. It's a huge investment. And it's very hard to put that money aside and to be able to do that. And we went through that, and I tell you, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But we're wondering how we could do that. And then the penny dropped a few years ago. We said, how about, we have all these locations. We know what works. We know what doesn't work. And we have all the experience from back home as well. We grew up in the hospitality industry. Smith's in Gastown, our pub there, is the third in 3 generations, for example. My uncle had a pub in Dublin before me, and my grandfather before him. So we're steeped in the hospitality industry, and we know the business pretty well. So we're thinking, how can we create the perfect pub? What size should it be? How many seats should it have? How many staff should it have? What should the rent be? How much should we be spending a week on goods, on product? All of these things. And we spent years tweaking this model to create the perfect pub. And we believe we have done it. And that pub is called Shamrock Storehouse. And we have all the IP and branding done across the world now. And all the legal stuff done and our franchise disclosure documents. And we're going to franchise that little Irish pub. And our plan is to open up 300 locations across Canada by the end of 2030, starting next year, so at the start of 2026. We already have 2 locations, 2 corporate stores, and our plan was to open 3 corporate stores, and we are just starting to open our 3rd corporate store now beside BC Place. Hopefully we'll get possession at the end of this year. We'll start building it out immediately and have it open definitely by May, because as we know, FIFA's coming here in June, and we want to have it ready for the World Cup.
It's a super location.
It's super location, yeah. So that'll be our 3rd corporate store, and that's the plan, is to have 3 corporate stores and then to franchise from there. And what I'm getting at is our managers will call these friendly franchises. So our first friendly franchises will go to our managers, our general managers, our bar managers. We have past managers who worked for us who have approached us and said, we want one of these Shamrock Storehouses. Will you hold our hand and help us do this? What do we need to do? Where do we start? How do we do it? How can you support us? So we are already looking at locations and putting in offers through our managers to start rolling this out next year. So it's super exciting.
What is the main challenge to franchise a pub?
The hospitality industry has very tight margins. So you've got to make sure that you have the right product. It's something that sells, and that you're focusing your energy, I think, into the right place. I always talk about the 80-20 rule. We make 80% of our revenue from 20% of the things that we do. And we spend years looking at the numbers, and that works in all different areas. So we know what works, and we focus on that. We don't get distracted by the noise, or we try not to anyway. Every day there's sales reps going into our locations, and they're trying to sell, the latest and greatest sour craft beer that has come on the market. And these are really good sales reps. And it's important that we train our staff and tell them to say no, And how do we do that? When we started, we had lots of lines, for example. So we got draft lines. So you got lots of beers on tap at Donnellan's. Let's say we have 25 or 30. And you're putting in different products all the time. But you got to remember that stuff like these lines have to be cleaned on a regular basis. And every time you clean these lines, an average line, you'll probably lose a pitcher of beer. So that's all waste. So it really, really affects your bottom line. So how do we control that? How do we limit that wastage? We, at our Shamrock Storehouse model, we're going to have 5 draft lines. And we know exactly what people want. We're going to put those 5 options in at every location, and that's what's going in there, and it can change. And the reps can come in and say, hey, buy this one, I'll give you a couple of hockey tickets. This is a really good beer, and I'm sure it's going to fly out the door. And most often than not, it doesn't. And you just wasted your time, you've wasted your money, and, it really affects.
What What other lessons have you learned in hospitality, managing all these pubs through painful mistakes?
We opened up a restaurant one time on Granville Street, we thought it'd be a great idea to open up an Irish fast food place. But, it was one of the biggest mistakes we ever made. We opened up a couple of locations where people said, we weren't forced into deals, but we'd done a deal to, get another contract, or, one of our clients, maybe a big developer, would say, I can't get anybody to, operate this location. Will you come in and help us out? And we took on projects that, our heart wasn't in them. And I truly believe if you're not like Ireland the Boxing, if you're not passionate about it, you won't keep, it won't last. It's not sustainable. You have to love what you're doing, you have to be good at it. So I say passion, peerless. You have to be one of the best. And when we're getting into new businesses now, we always ask ourselves these three things, or I ask myself in my head, am I passionate about this? Do I love it? And if I don't, I will not do it. Peerless. Can we be the best at this? And if we can't, I won't do it. And the last one is profitable. Can this business make money? And if I think it might not be profitable, but I love it, I really like to do this, I won't do it. So it has to tick those three boxes, because, it's not all about money, but at the end of the day, money is a way of measuring performance. Are we doing a good job or are we not? And if you're not making money, it's very hard to be sustainable. It's impossible. You can't pay the bills, you can't pay your labor. So if it doesn't tick those three boxes, we won't do it. Taking on the locations, when I look back, the ones that failed, did they tick those three boxes? No, absolutely not. They weren't Irish pubs. I wasn't passionate about them. Not at all. Nothing. Like, our culture is a very big thing to us. Culture, connection, community. And it had nothing got to do with our culture. We didn't know the communities. We weren't involved in them. And we didn't have any connection with the business. We weren't passionate about it. So they didn't work, and we got out of them and everybody was happy. We didn't just lock the doors and say, okay, we're walking away, we don't have anything got to do with this. We always got somebody in to take over and to make sure that it went as smoothly as it possibly could. But all of the failures we had, there was a common thread. Which was we didn't have any passion. We weren't passionate about them. We didn't believe that they were peerless.
And which one is harder to work on? Is it the construction side of the business, or is it the hospitality side? I know you love both,
I do.
but one must be more
I love both, and I'd probably say the hospitality is a little bit more challenging.
really
Yeah,
than construction.
yeah, I think it is.
So much can go wrong in construction, and everything costs so much.
Yeah, but hospitality is the same thing. There's so much competition.
What are you doing different than your competitors then? Because you have pubs in areas where there are other pubs, and I know you told us before, your pub on that block is doing very well.
We are a pub group that specializes in Irish pubs, and they like the fact that, we grew up in that industry in Ireland. So we've operated Irish pubs in Ireland, and now we're operating Irish pubs here in Canada.
It's the authenticity.
Exactly. It's authentic. We know what we're doing. And that's the main reason we opened up Donnellan's back in 2016 when we took on that lease. It was a big undertaking, but we knew that there was so much potential. There was a lot of places who didn't know how to pull a pint of Guinness properly. They were calling themselves Irish bars, and they weren't really Irish bars. An Irish bar will typically do better than your regular pub. So people like to go to an Irish bar because when you think of an Irish bar, you think of friendly, you think of fun. That's why we done it. We just thought that there was a huge opening here to do a better job with Irish pubs, and it worked.
And there's one thing that you didn't mention is the entertainment, daily entertainment.
Yeah.
Do you have that in all the pubs or only in the French?
We do lots of live entertainment at our locations.
And that's unusual.
We do. Yeah,
Competitors don't have.
when we opened up Donnellan's, that was a big part of our business plan. We would have live entertainment every day. And some people thought that was crazy, but it was,
It does sound crazy.
it was a huge success. And people would be looking for somewhere to go on a Tuesday night or a Monday night or a Wednesday night, and they'd be thinking, Donnellan's has entertainment every night. They don't have to go on the phone and check and see what's happening there. There's always live music there at 7 p.m. So they would go there automatically. And you would see lots of people coming in with, their parents or their partners, and they would automatically go to Donnellan's because it was known for its entertainment.
William, there's two things I want to dive deeper into. One is your mindset and your motivation. We talked about this. You have a lot of energy, but you have gifts and you also have things that you constantly have to work on. What are your gifts, or what's your main gift? And what are the other things that you're doing well, but that have cost you a lot to get better at, or that you constantly have to work on? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I do lots of maintenance. I'll start by saying I've been very lucky in life. I really have.
And how do you establish that luck?
Three main things. I was lucky to be born into a very good family in a small little village in the west of Ireland. A good community, a good family. We didn't have an awful lot, but we had lots of love. They're my role models. They're my idols. I owe everything to them. Number two, I was very lucky with the partner I ended up with. My life partner, my wife, Laura. I got the best partner in the world. And that's...
No. I got the best one. Sorry. Second, William. This is my story. Here she's the second best in the world.
And number three, and I mean this, we were very lucky to end up where we ended up here in Vancouver, BC, because the opportunities that we got here, I have no doubt we wouldn't have got them if we were still back at home in Ireland. And I never thought for a second I'd live outside of Ireland. That little community I grew up in, my family all been there, to move 5,000 miles away and start a new life over here, and not knowing anybody. I thought, if somebody told me that was going to happen, I'd say, you're crazy. That'll never happen. So it's amazing what life has in store for you. You just never know. So I've been very lucky in life, but as I said, from a young age, I've been very motivated. I really have. And I think I'm pretty tough. I'm resilient. And over the years, I've got better and better and better at doing business and being a husband and being a dad and just being a better person, just through experience.
And what is hard for you to work on?
I think the hardest thing for me to work on is to relax. Just to relax and to know that it's okay to be bored. I read that in a few books. I like to read and I like to listen to audiobooks when I'm driving. And that's probably the number one hardest thing for me. I feel like, I should be doing on a Sunday. What should I be doing today? How can I get a little bit ahead for tomorrow? So when I start tomorrow, I'm in good shape. Instead of just saying, you know what, I'm going to sit back and relax today. Or I'm going to go to the park with the kids and I'm just going to chill out. And I'm not going to be worrying about work or thinking about work. So it's hard. The hardest thing for me is to turn off. But I'm much better at that now than I was. And I told you about our example earlier. Now I don't leave the house at 5 a.m. I leave when it's the right time to leave. But yeah, just turning off and relaxing is tough for me, taking vacations.
And what else do you have to work on constantly?
I love learning. So I'm always trying to educate myself and to be better. I have to work out 3 times a week. That's very important for me. And that's, I think, my maintenance. Exercising, socializing, and meditation. So I pray daily. I go to the gym 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If I don't get there first thing in the morning, I'm getting there at some point whenever I can. But it's important I do that. And if I don't do that, I will see myself. I won't be I won't be able to function as good as I should be. And, my family will see that too. Laura said to me, when were you at the gym last? So I think that's my maintenance. That's what works well for me. I have a list, I think we talked about it in episode 10, of my daily good habits. And I do all of these things on a daily basis. And they really help me too. And they're very small things. Like,
Let's go and list them again.
I should pull up my phone and get them all. But like, it's just things like meditation, going to the gym, dressing my bed. Every morning, I never leave my house. When I get up, the first thing I'll do, or before I leave the house, because I get up and, Laura's still in bed, but I'll always dress the bed before I leave home. I'll make sure that the small things that need to be done at home every day are done before I leave. Going to the gym. I do things which are probably a little bit crazy to most. When I'm brushing my teeth, I'll brush my teeth with my left hand. Sometimes I'll write with my left hand because I'm right-handed, and I want to challenge my brain to make sure that I'm sharp all the time. So I do lots of little different things like that. Look, at everybody is different, but I've seen things over the years and read things over the years, and I take little nuggets and I just bring them with me, and I think that they help me a lot.
And being very competitive, do you feel that you have to force yourself to calm down? Essentially, being a leader, you can't always come across as being bossy
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
being the winner. You have
Yeah.
to let people win as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And, I often ask questions to our teams and our managers that I know the answer to, or I think I know the answer to, but I want to see what they say. And instead of just saying, this is what we're going to do because this is the right way to do it, and I'm sure it's the right way to do it, I'll ask them, what should we do here? Or what do you think we should do? And I don't just listen anymore. I hear them. I actually hear them, and I take their opinions on board, and they really appreciate that. And more often than not, when I'm in a room with our managers, and next week I'm going away, we go away a few times a year on retreats with our managers. And next Monday, we'll go to Whistler for a few days on a management retreat. And we do that all the time. It's like a think break. And we learn so much at those by just listening to each other. And great ideas come out of it. And how can we be better, and how can we support each other more? And we really encourage everybody to be vulnerable at those retreats. And honestly, you'll have grown men sitting around a table crying over different things, but you never know what people are going through. So you have to be empathetic, and I give a lot of credit to my wife for that. She's taught me a lot of empathy, and to not just listen to others, but to hear them and to take their opinions on board. And, you don't always have to make the decisions. And that has been a huge part of our success.
Since you just mentioned, we're talking now about leadership. How have you changed, or better said, evolved as a leader since you started your first company? Can you name 2 or 3 things that made you change, and how?
What's a leader? And
The boss.
yeah, like different people.
If you're paying, you're the boss. So how have you changed?
In my humble opinion, a leader is somebody that others aspire to be like, that they want to follow. And you can't be a leader, in my opinion, by being a really good manager or being really good at your job, but having a bad attitude, for example, or not respecting others. And I've had so many issues with that throughout the years. You got these people, and they're high performance people, and they're so good at their job. They're like the best, but they can't work in a team. They don't respect others. Then the others don't give them respect. Then you're constantly, you have a revolving door here within their department or their team of people coming and going because they can't work with that person, and I am so careful now. And look, at huge credit to Laura because she runs our HR department. But when we're hiring people, we're so careful that, we hire for attitude. You can train for skill, but hire for attitude. You can train somebody with the right attitude to do anything, but somebody with the wrong attitude, it doesn't matter how talented they are, So that was a very good learning experience for us. And as a leader,
So hiring team players, hiring people with better attitude.
yes, absolutely, yeah. And I wasn't always a good leader. Yeah, I was the captain of the sports teams, and when I played a lot of sports underage and that kind of thing. I was lucky to be pretty good at sports. I played in a hurling World Cup for Canada, and my claim to fame, I played in a World Cup back in 2011 or 12. 42 countries in the world played in a World Cup back in Ireland. Hurling is a sport like lacrosse for anybody that doesn't know, where you have a stick and a ball like a baseball.
And you played for Canada?
Yeah, for Canada, yeah. And it was so much fun. And about 42 countries in the world took part. So
you betrayed Ireland.
Yeah, well, I had to play for my home country. Leadership is not just a word, or it's not just a bunch of words that you see, on a wall in a boardroom. Actions speak louder than words. If you want to be a leader, you have to act like a leader, not talk like a leader. It's more important that you listen than talk. But you got to be the person that people aspire to be. And otherwise, you can't be a leader. And you don't have to be in the front to be a leader. You can lead from behind. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to have the respect of the people around you, and you have to give them respect if you want to get respect. You have to have the ability to listen more than you talk, to hear others, to understand what they're saying, to take their opinions on board, let them get involved. As you said, let them make the decisions, let them come up with the ideas. It doesn't always have to be your idea.
It's hard though, it is. You have to work on it.
It's very hard, and especially when, I have had a lot of businesses that I worked in, when I started even here with IRL, and I started on my own. You're working on your own, so you have to make every decision, you have to do everything. And you want to make sure that everything is right. But I've learned over the years that something done at 80% is better than something not done at all. And that was another big moment for me when I figured that out. I used to say, don't do that there now. Don't hang that door, because I'll do that myself when I have time. Come back tomorrow. Still didn't get to the door because I didn't have time. I was busy over here hanging these doors and doing this baseboard and doing this millwork. But you know what? The door never got hung. So believe in the people around you. Hire the right people. Empower them. Believe in them. Let them do their thing. Don't micromanage them. If you're micromanaging people, you got the wrong people. So let them do their thing. And if it's not 100% right, don't worry about it. And maybe it is 100% right and you just think it's not. It might be right. But if you want to tweak it a little bit at the end, then do that. I think I told you the story before when I was up in Dawson City in the Yukon. I was walking around the project. I probably had about 35 guys on our team at the time. And I was there, hanging a door and doing a few bits. And one of the senior project managers became a very good friend of mine now, a very successful guy here, Jack Bray. Jack said, William, I want to tell you something. You're here hanging this door. This door is going to be perfect. It's great. And you're going to do a really good job. But while you're doing that, I walked around the site and I saw, half of your team on their phone. How much money are you losing there? Why don't you get one of you got a great team. You got a real good team, but why don't you get one of your guys to hang this door? And why don't you do the walking around to make sure they're all working? And that you're being productive. And that when they need answers, you're there to give them the answers and you're there to give them the support. So, don't be stuck here in the business. Work on the business, not in the business. That's the only way you can grow. And he was right. And I never forgot that.
Yeah, I haven't forgotten that either. You told this story to me about a year ago. And I keep thinking, you should not hold the camera. Should not hold the camera. Let Franco do it. Let Stefan do it. Let, these guys do it. But it's so many years of experience, right? And we see things that some people don't see. But I know you're going to say, well, you're going to hire the right people who will know where.
But I wouldn't say either that you shouldn't hold the camera, but let them hold another camera.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll do a better job than you. That often happens to me. I have a rule that when I'm hiring people, I have to hire people that are as good as myself or better, ideally better. And I always say that to our GMs. When you're putting people on your bus, just remember those rules. They need to be as good as you or better, but ideally better. And then one of them said to me at our retreat, which was a great question, well, what about if they take our job? Because that's the way people think. And I was very impressed that he actually said that out. And I said, you won't have to worry about that, because you're going to have these people doing such a great job. You're the manager, you're general manager for a reason, because we trust in you. You're doing a great job. You worked hard to get to that position. And if you want to keep growing and doing a better job and improving your performance, that's how you do it. You get people that are as good as you or better. So you have more people with that capability working within your group, and then it's going to make you look way better. And down the line they might leave and get their own management position, but that's a good thing. You're helping those people, you're empowering them, and that's how we try and do it.
So we've been talking about finding the right people to work on your team, but now tell me about your inner circle. The more successful you get, the more people come knocking on your door, throwing rocks on your window, emailing you, spamming you, trying to call you. You need to have some gatekeepers. And it could be your wife, it could be just ignoring people, ghosting them. Who gets into your inner circle and who doesn't?
Firstly, a big shout out to Kira, my executive assistant, who is my gatekeeper. And a big shout out to Katie, my business coach, who, told me you need a gatekeeper and you need a good gatekeeper, and has told me many of the times since, you got a good gatekeeper. When I'm trying to get a hold of you, I can't even get a hold of you now. And I see that all the time when I'm sitting in the office and the phone rings, and Kira will, protect me, because the one thing you can't claw back, or you can't stop, I suppose, is time. So it's the most precious thing of all, in my opinion, time. You can't turn back time, and we're only on this planet for a very short period of time, and you have to make the most of it. And what I do is I say to myself, I get up every day and I do the best that I can. I have no regrets, and I never worry about having wasted that time. And I do that every day, whether it's Monday, whether it's Sunday, and I have no regrets, and it really works for me. But the people that I guess I give absolute access to me, my friends, my family. When I left Ireland and came to Canada, that was the thought in my head. How am I going to survive without my friends, and how are they going to survive without me? When I was gone for 3 or 4 years, I forgot about them. Of course, I go back and meet up with them all the time, but it's like they've moved on too. They have lives. They got married. They had kids. They started companies. They moved on with their life, and if I was back in Ireland, I probably wouldn't see them as much as I see them now. I go back 2 or 3 times a year, and we always catch up, and we'll go for dinner and go for a beer. And
But those are your friends.
they are.
So these new people, that try to come closer to you, who is allowed into the inner circle?
I'm pretty disciplined in that way, in that sense. I am able to ignore a lot of what I call the distractions or the noise. Like, for example, I don't read my LinkedIn messages. I sometimes look at it and I'm laughing at how many there are there. And anyone that knows me will know that. My emails are screened. So anybody that knows me, they might send me an email, and then they'll send me a text or call me, and they'll say, hey, William, I just send you an email whenever you get a chance. Will you get back to me? Because, yes, I will look at my emails, but I look at them sporadically. I can't spend all day, every day, looking at emails or looking at LinkedIn messages or any other messages on social media platforms.
Wait, LinkedIn is really bad. When we go to events, like the Board of Trade events, for example, we go to events and then we get 1, 2, 3 invites. Good. Okay, I met this person, I met this person, I met this person. But when I get a random request of someone, it's usually, hey, Elton, I just saw your work there or there. Oh, your podcast. And would love to connect. 99% of the time, Elton, I think you are a prospect for whatever I want to sell. The silliest request is like this. Hey, I love what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. I would love to connect and learn more about so and so. And I go, oh, accept. Hey, I have this and this and this and this and this and this. When do you have 15 minutes to book a call? Never.
They're time wasters, yeah?
Can't imagine what it's like for you.
Yeah.
with 15 businesses.
So I just have these little safeguards, I don't carry business cards with me. And mostly I'll let people into my circle if it's a referral. So if it's through somebody else that I trust 100%.
Yeah.
And they say, I need you to meet this person. This is a good person. Fine. I don't have a business card, but I'll give you my number. And I give them my number there and then, my direct cell. And I'll say, text me or call me. So that's what I'll do. When I do have to hand out business cards, of course I have them. And when I am handing them out, I don't have my cell number on there. So I never put my cell number on my business card. So it's just the office number. So nobody is going to be texting me or calling me on my personal cell, even if I do give them my business card. And when I want somebody to have my business card and my cell number, I just take out my pen and I write my cell number on my business card. I say, that's my direct cell. You can get me on that. So I have the option of giving it to them or not, and I can still give them my business card and they feel, oh, good, I got that, and they're happy, but my cell is not on there.
Yeah, you have to protect yourself.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you have to change your number every year.
That's right. And I've had the same number since I came here 17 years ago. So I want to keep it. And a lot of people have it. But, and you know what? If people are calling you and annoying you, don't be afraid to block them. I'm not afraid to block people, to not give them my business card, to not give them my cell. Kira, as I said, my gatekeeper, she is terrific. She's so good. And just small little things like that help a lot. So
I would like to just make an analogy here because 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I also had no idea what it would be like to be a business owner. And I didn't know what it would be like to be so busy running your business and then with your family, especially if you have a spouse and then you have kids. Most of your free time, of your scarce free time, goes towards that, right? And I believe that genuinely many people don't understand when they want to have access to someone that they look up to, that they admire, that they would like to work with or work for. They just go, "Oh well, I'm texting you, I'm emailing you. You should respond." But that person is getting 50 messages, maybe daily. They can't stop. They are on a mission, and that's why we admire them. They can't stop. It's so the analogy that I want to give is if you are running or if you're playing a sport, let's say you're running. You're training for a marathon, so you're running 20 kilometers. You can't stop because someone is asking for directions. Hi, excuse me here. I'm trying to get to the SkyTrain station. You're not gonna stop. You're running on your pace. Oh, yeah. Yes. How can I help you? Oh, you want to go to the SkyTrain station? Yeah. Oh, actually, let me show you. Let me walk a block with you. People don't do that, right?
Yeah.
You ask other people who are waiting for the bus. They're just waiting for the bus. Hey, where is the SkyTrain station? Oh, yeah. I'll give you 5 minutes. But yeah, most leaders don't have that time. That's why it's so important to know how to manage your time, but also to block people,
and
which
be
is
able to
crazy.
be able to say no, to be able to say no and to turn things down.
I'm glad you said that because another thing I wanted to ask you, William, is what kinds of things have you said no to because you are on this journey, running these businesses and building a brighter future for your family? What are the things that you would love to do and you can't do or decided not to?
So I played polo, so on horseback, and I absolutely loved it because as you know, I love horses, I love animals. I've been horse riding since I was a little kid, and I love playing sports. So the polo club kept on to me. You are the perfect polo player. You gotta come and play with us. And I did go for one lesson with a professional who is out of that club in Delta, the Vancouver Polo Club. A big shout out to those that are awesome. And after that lesson, I just loved it. And he was like, holy crap, I've never seen anybody not play polo and have one lesson and being able to play polo like this. But it was kind of easy for me because I'm able to ride a horse. I've been riding since I was a kid. And then it's, having that balance and having that hand-eye coordination to hit the ball. So I loved polo. It was probably one of the most exhilarating things I have ever done. And I said, oh my God, I'm going to do this forever. Like I became a member, and I played polo, and it was so much fun. And it was just very hard to get the time, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And you got to get out there, and there's multiple horses, and, it takes hours, and you have so much going on, and a young family. And I played for one season, and I thought I'd play forever, and I didn't play since because I just had to say no to it. And it was a very, very tough decision. And I will play polo again. I really will. I love it, but I can't right now. There's too much going on, and I had to say no. But it was a very tough decision to make, because I do believe that you have to have, a number of outlets as well, whether it's golf, soccer, squash. I see a lot of people playing squash at Terminal City Club all the time. It amazes me how many people play squash, but it's a real social thing, and you're getting your exercise. I think the most important things for our mental health are exercising and socializing. To look at squash is a great example of doing both. Polo's another example. There's so many great sports that tick both boxes, and unfortunately, I can't play polo.
But now your kids get to ride the horse.
I do. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they get to ride, and I get to do a lot of stuff too. I play urban rec soccer, so the games are on at 10 p.m. So the kids go to bed, and I can go and play soccer like once or twice a week out in UBC, and I can play a soccer match, and I love that. It's co-ed. It's no real contact, but I like the fact I'm getting exercise. I'm meeting people. I like to get competitive and score a few goals. I come home, Laura's like, you're worse than the kids. I come home and I said, guys, I got a hat trick last night. And she's shaking her head at me.
We've been talking for about an hour, and one more thing that I haven't asked you yet: growth. How do you plan for growth? Is it something that you decide with Laura, your wife, or do you do that in strategic meetings with the whole team?
If I see an opportunity, I will use my sounding boards, which is, number one, Laura. Her best interests are my best interests. I trust her 100%. So if she's like, no, we're absolutely not doing this, then it's like, okay, this is not a good idea. If she says yes, and we kind of talk about it a little bit, maybe we'll ask our advisors, we'll talk to our executive committee, or just good people that we trust in our circle. But I do believe, your intuition, your gut is very, very important. Any business we've had that ever failed, we always had that feeling in our gut that this might not be the right thing to do, and we might have forced it a little bit. So we don't force deals anymore. We make sure that if we are doing a deal or doing a partnership, that everybody is very happy doing that deal or going into that partnership, because if they're not happy going in, they won't be happy in there, and they won't be happy coming out, and it's going to cause a lot of problems, and it's going to waste a lot of your time cleaning up the messes down the line. So your gut is very important, but even more important is just having the right people around you, people that you can trust and people that you can ask for advice.
And is there anything that you have accomplished, but other people were telling you that you could never do? What do you do when you share your ideas and someone goes, that's not doable? Do you cut them off? Do you prove them wrong?
Yeah, when you said that, a thought immediately came into my head, and I saw a picture recently, and it said something like, isn't it amazing that the kids that sat in the corridor outside the classroom because they wouldn't follow the rules are now the ones running the multi-million-dollar companies? I was thinking, wow, like that was me for sure. I was the only one in our family that didn't go to university. I went instead, and
you're now the one lending money to all your brothers and sisters?
I wouldn't say that now, but I went and done a trade instead. I'm a carpenter by trade, and I often get asked when being interviewed now, if I was doing it all over again, what would I do differently? And I would do the same thing. I would join the trades, and I encourage our boys now to become trades. One of our boys wants to be a digger driver, and I said, If you want to be a digger driver, you go and be a digger driver. I would highly encourage that. Great, a great thing to do, and it's something that'll always be needed. Also, let's say carpentry, electricians, mechanics, heavy duty mechanics. The money they're making now, I think in the next 10 years, trades are going to be making more money than surgeons, because surgeons are already being replaced by AI. Robots are doing surgeries now, 100% in Europe. And there's no AI that can come in and put up that formwork and pour that concrete and tie that rebar. Not now, and I genuinely think not ever. There's certain areas on a construction site that'll never be replaced by AI, and there's 50,000 people leaving our industry here each year, and not many going into our industry. So supply and demand, the only one thing is going to happen. Rates are going to go up. We're always going to need homes. There's so many people moving to this beautiful part of the world. It's clean, it's safe, it's beautiful. People want to live here. They're going to have places to stay, and there's always going to be lots of work for trades, and they're going to make a lot of money in the next 10 years is what I think.
What do you want your kids to learn from you, all your 3 boys?
They were asking about the importance of this and that, and I was telling them, it's important to have good people around you and people you can trust. But I said the most important thing of all, one thing I never want you to forget, is that family always comes first. And they just said, okay, Dad, yeah, we'll never forget that. I said, it doesn't matter how many companies you have, or how many people are working for you, or how many cars you have, or how many houses you have, or how many horses you have, or those are all things that can be replaced. They're material things. But I said, friends and family, that always has to come first. And, and I said, and that's why I'm not at the office now. I'm dropping you guys to school. And that's why when you have your flag football this evening, I'm going to be at that match. And that's why when you're boxing on Wednesday, I'm going to be bringing you boxing, because those are memories that we'll have forever. And I just think that it's so important that they are aware of that. My mum was something else. She's like the Mother Teresa of Ireland. She always was adamant that our families were very, very close and tight-knit, and that we never fell out over anything. And, I seen it happening in my dad's family, unfortunately. My godfather, Mark, who I'm very close with, and I hope I don't get emotional here, who I was very close with when I was probably 10, passed away, got a massive heart attack, never drank, never smoked, had no family. He was a bachelor and had, a big farm, and he was a very successful businessman. And all of the family went fighting over what he had, and how they were going to divide up the farm and the money and, all of his equipment. And it drove a wedge between them all. And thankfully, in their later years now, they have kind of realized that was terrible, and some of them are coming back together now. But my mum never wanted that to happen to us. And she was adamant that if we had an argument, that was fine, but we met up, and that we always kind of stood side by side and looked after each other. And I think that's always been there in the back of our head, that, family is everything. Of course, you got to give the attention to your businesses that they need, but you also have to have that right balance. Your family always has to come first. And just, I always say, don't prioritize your schedule your priorities, So things like the flag football and the boxing and the soccer matches, they're in my calendar. And, it might be 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after, just to make sure I'm there on time. And Kira will put everything else into my calendar around those things. So those life events are as important as anything else. And you will miss games, but put them in there and get to as many of them as you can, because you'll never regret spending time with your kids. and time goes by so fast. You know that better than anybody. I can't believe that, Irla's in grade 3 now and that he's 8. And it's just, he's so much fun. We can have a conversation with him, we can joke, we can, slag each other. And it's like, geez, how did you get that big? And how did you get this intelligent? And he's just a beautiful, beautiful person, as our other 2 boys. But it's crazy. It seems like yesterday he was born. And you can't get back any of that time. So don't regret not spending enough time with them. And anywhere you can, do that. Go on holidays. I said to you, it's hard for me to relax, hard for me to stop working. Vacation. I'm thinking, Laura's like, let's go on vacation. I'm like, don't worry about it. We'll go next year. But when I go there, I always enjoy it, and it's lots of fun. And I just have to be a bit more, maybe be the one that suggests that we go on vacation, rather than Laura feeling like she has to pull me on vacation. It's like when we go back to Ireland to see our family, I always feel like I don't have time to do this, and this is not a good time. But there's never a good time. But when I'm back there, I'm so happy. So family is number one.
Great. I think we agree on that. Guys, what do you want to ask? We have Michelle, Saul, Asim, Franco here. Any questions? 2 questions. One, are there any mantras that you repeat to yourself or to people that are around you? For example, I always say, I have to do what I said I was going to do. And another thing is, we have to help people who want to be helped and not people that just need help or that we want to help. Those were the 2 questions that she asked. Do you have anything like that?
I have so many. And the first one that came to mind when Michelle asked that question was business related. The 2 rules of business. I think I've mentioned this to you before. Don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. When you look at the grander picture and when you put things into perspective, when we spent months in intensive care with our kids when they were preemies, when you go back doing business after that and you have an issue, it's not a problem. It's easy, because I think it was Oprah Winfrey that said that, actually. I think of the 2 rules of business. Don't sweat about the small stuff. And remember, rule number 2, that it's all small stuff. Another thing that came to mind, which is more family and more personal, is spend time with the people who love you. I know for a fact when I was younger, and probably in my 20s and maybe in my 30s, I'd spend time with the people that I loved. So that I thought I loved. I thought, I'm going to hang out with that guy. He's cool and he's good fun, and I'm going to, go to that event. But now I have a total different mind frame, and I spend as much time as I can with the people who love me. And that's my family, most importantly. And I make sure that I can get home at a time that's reasonable, so I can see my kids and kiss them goodnight. And sometimes that's not possible, but I make a special effort to do that. I make a special effort to be with them in the morning and not leave too early, so I can spend some quality time with them in the morning. So little things like that. Any other ones that come to mind? Do as I say, not as I do. I'm sure we've heard that one before. But I think the biggest one was the 2 rules of business for me in my business life anyway. Don't sweat about the small stuff, and it's all small stuff.
Okay, so the question that Saul is asking is, how much can you be empathetic? Is there a fine line between being too empathetic or not enough empathetic? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Saul. And the obvious answer is you got to find that balance, which is the real answer. It's the right answer. But you have to take your business seriously too. So, if somebody tells me, that something bad happened and, I got to take a few days off. Okay, I'm very sorry that happened, and I'm here to help you in any way you can. What do you need from me? Take a bit of time, but before you go, where was this at? Where was this at? Where was this at? What do I need to do to keep the ball rolling here and take the reins and make sure that everything is transitions as smoothly as possible. So you can be empathetic and you can be nice about it, but at the end of the day, you've got to stay focused. We have a business to run here. We are here to help and support in any way we can. But there's nothing wrong with being, with staying focused and being, I guess, professional as well. And keeping it, I don't know if it's what the right word is, but you don't have to, be overly empathetic. And I think people appreciate that. They don't expect that either. But you have to be genuine. You have to be genuine. And people will know if you're genuine and if you're not.
It's a little bit like being a dad, I think, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to give all the love in the world, but I tell Max all the time. Yesterday, probably mentioned it twice. I asked him now, what is my job? Take care of me and raise me like a wise, strong man. He knows this is my main job. So everything that I do with love. But sometimes I walk him. Sometimes, I have to discipline him. If it comes to the last resource, I will do that because I have a much stronger responsibility. Isn't it the same at work?
You gotta lay down the ground rules as well. Yeah, it's very, very similar to being a parent. You're right. Yeah, with kids, let's have some fun. But there's times where we gotta get our lessons done. We gotta eat our breakfast. We gotta get our uniform on. We gotta go to school. So there's a time and a place for everything. But it is important. Yeah, that's a very good analogy. It is important that you have empathy and you show lots of love, unconditional love to your kids. But it's also important that you teach them right from wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always say to our kids, always be kind. And I joke when I'm driving, I'm like, remember guys, ABC, always be kind. And they're like, Dad, ABC, that's kind is not C, But I say that purposely because I want them to always remember that, So I'm like, ABC, always be kind. And they're just laughing and shaking their head at me like...
I ordered a t-shirt for you. Have you ever used that t-shirt?
Yes, they still have it.
It's Be Kind in green, it's a green t-shirt.
I still have it.
Be Kind, yeah.
Yeah,
I had it on the episode with Bob. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you will see it.
Ah, lovely.
William, thank you. Many more things I'm sure we would love to talk about. Is the Canadian dream real in your life?
Absolutely. This is the land of opportunity. As I said, I've been very lucky in life with those three things. And one of the biggest ones, and maybe Laura says the most important thing that has ever happened to us, is that we came to Canada and now have this beautiful life here in Vancouver. And she's right. It's the best decision we ever made.
Right.
Moving to Canada. So the Canadian dream is real.
Yeah, for both of us.
It is.
Actually, for all of us. And one question that I always ask everybody who comes on the podcast, and I'm sure I asked you the first time you came, more than 2 years ago. People have dreams, people have goals, and sometimes life happens. They give up on those dreams or they postpone them, put them aside. What would you like to say to anybody who's watching this and needs some words of inspiration or motivation? You can look at the camera.
So, I think you asked me earlier, can anyone do this? Absolutely, anyone can do this. But can anybody sustain this? No, they can't, And that goes back to the 3 Ps, You got to be passionate about it. If you're passionate about something, you'll give it 110%. If you don't give it 110%, you won't be successful at it. Peerless. Can you be really good at this? Can you be the best? You got to ask yourself that. And profit. Can I make some money? Is this sustainable? It won't be sustainable. It won't go on if you can't make enough money to keep the lights on, keep the bills paid. But anyone can do it. I do believe that. Anybody can do it if you have the right attitude. But you have to be resilient. You got to be tough. you got to be creative. You got to be able to pivot, because you can plan, you can plan forever, but plans will change, and plans do change, and plans will always change. So you got to be able to pivot, and you got to be resilient, and you got to be tough to keep going. So anyone can do it, but you got to make sure that what you're doing, you really, really love it. And as I said, life is short. I really mean that. Life is so short. Don't waste your time doing something that you don't really love. You're just wasting your time. You'll never get that time back, and you will regret that.
And following your example, I think I would add, don't waste your time just dreaming and planning, but just do it, because you do things fast.
Absolutely, yeah. Don't be. I worked for a family member in Chicago, John. A big shout out to John Greeley. He was a great contractor in construction over there in Chicago, and is still there contracting. And John used to say, if you're going to mess up fast. So if you're going to make a mistake, make it quickly. Don't make it slowly. And then, okay, I made that mistake, move on and fix it. And he was right, But don't be afraid. Wayne Gretzky said you miss 100% of the shots you never take, And that, that was brilliant. And it's so true. Like, so what if I take this shot and I miss? Well, if you don't take it, you've missed, And what if you take it and you score? Then you're a hero. So, he was right. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Yeah. My mom always said to what you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so important that you surround yourself with good people. That is so important. And that's probably one of the most important pieces of advice I'll give to our kids, is to surround yourself with the right people. Give your kids the best possible start in life that you can give them, or your friends, or your mentors. And then you'll always have somebody to as a soundboard, to support you, to help you, just to listen to you. So I do really believe that. I think your network is your net worth. And in particular here in Vancouver, you just surround yourself with good people, and the opportunities will be endless. I think my coach said to me 10 years ago, if you have 3 good days a week, you will be very successful. And I thought that was kind of nuts. And if you meet 3 new clients each year, you'll be very successful. And how right he was. How right he was, And I see you can get 3 good clients, which doesn't seem like a lot, in a year. And you can have them forever. And that could be worth anything for your business. And just surrounding yourself with the right people. Trust and relationships as well. 2 most important things in business. You got to build that trust. You got to maintain that trust. Relationships, people need to trust you, So I think to sum everything up, in business, I think, and in life, the most important thing is trust and relationships, having those good relationships. And it doesn't need to be a lot of people. I believe if you have more than 5 really good friends, you're fooling yourself. It's not true. You got these people.
3 is the magic number, I think.
Maybe, yeah. I have never heard that, but you don't think when you're young, you think I need to have 10 friends or 20 friends, or the more friends I have, the better. Not necessarily. Surround yourself with good people. Gain that trust, maintain that trust. Good things will happen to good people.
Anything else?
That's it. Thank you very much for having me on the show. To yourself and Michelle and Franco and the audience. Really appreciate it and really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
so much. And thank you for watching another episode of the Canadian Dream Podcast. If you got inspired like we all did, please remember to share this episode, to like it, and subscribe to our channel so we can keep growing this community of people who get inspired by all these successful stories of Canadians and immigrants in Canada. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Canadian Dream Podcast.